We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill. Welcome to episode number 13. The title of this week's show is Better to Give. I have a personal story that's related to the topic of today's or this week's episode, Better to Give. And I think it perfectly illustrates the idea that being generous actually benefits the giver more than the person on the receiving end. It's the biblical principle that it's more blessed to give than to receive. The story goes like this. I was getting our bathroom remodeled, and they did a great job on it. And they had to do a lot of extra things. There was a lot more damage to the floor than we anticipated. And they totally redid the shower and new bathtub, and they just redid everything. Just a great job, and I appreciate them. And it's just wonderful what they did. And the company that we used, Trinidad Tile Incorporated, they don't do painting. So we used the guy that they used to do he had to do some patchwork on the walls and that type thing before painting could be done. So me and my wife decided to go with that particular person for the painting. So when I asked him after he was finished doing his patch-up work, how much would he charge me to paint the bathroom? He looked at it, man, he assessed the situation, asked me what color I wanted. Was it going to be just one color? And we talked about what type paint is the best paint, and if I would get the paint or if he would get the paint. So I decided that I would get the paint, and so he gave me a price. Now, that was about 3 weeks before he actually did the work, because they had to finish up some other things, and then he could come and paint. So the day came for him to paint, and he came with his son and one other person. I can't remember if it was his nephew or not, but there was it was three of them doing the job, right? So basically, bottom line, long story short, they did a great job. So when they finished, and he was wanting me to come and see the bathroom, I checked it out and everything was great. They did a terrific job. Now, remember, he quoted me a price that I felt was low at the time. I'm not sure if I clarified that at the beginning of the story, but the price that he gave me to do the bathroom, I thought was low. And so, but I went with the price. So when I finished checking out the work and I verified with him that low price, I said, so the price is such and such, right? And he said, I can tell by his body language, he knew it was low at that particular point, and he shook his head and he said, yes. I did that on purpose to ask him and to confirm, because I knew I was going to give him more money. So he confirmed the low price, and I wrote him a check out, and I put some additional money on the check. Now, here's the principle of better to give than to receive. I will never forget the smile on his face when I paid him a little bit extra, and the appreciation that he showed, knowing that I knew that price was low, and I appreciated his work, and I showed him how much by giving him something extra. I'm telling you, I will never forget that smile on his face. That the extra money that I gave him, that money is probably already spent and gone. But that feeling I got from the smile on his face and the appreciation of me giving him something extra, I'll never forget that. That's going to benefit me for as long as I live. Again, the principle is it's better to give. I try to be generous in my life. I get that from my mom. My mom is the type person that will give you the shirt off her back, but she won't take anything from you. I watched her do that all my life. She never would take anything from anybody else, but she was always willing to give. And it's a great principle. I try to do that now when I'm at the store, and, a credible store like a CVS, Walgreens, something like that. Or if I'm at Lucille's, my favorite restaurant for me and my wife to go to, one of our favorites, they have this thing called rounding up for charity. And I typically always do that. And if someone at a counter at CVS or Walgreens asks, would you like to donate $1 to this or to that? I do that. I don't tell you this to impress you, but I tell you this to encourage you to do that sometimes. Now, I typically, if someone is outside a store asking for money, I rarely ever do that anymore, because I was burned a long time ago, and everybody else is, suffering for that. Someone burning me, telling a sob story, and it turned out that it wasn't the case. So that was a long time ago. Burn me or fool me once, shame on you. But if you fool me twice, shame on me. But I do like to give at the counter at a store that is a creditable store, and I'll give an extra $1 here and there. And it's going to benefit me in the long run, being generous that way. And I encourage you to be generous that way, especially in this time when you are looking at all of the devastation that's happening in the Houston area, in the Southeast Texas area. Again, reading this week's quote from Winston Churchill: we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. If you are a regular listener to this show, you know that usually I talk about the person that is being quoted for this particular week. But since I spent so much time talking about the devastation in the Houston area and Hurricane Harvey, I'm not going to talk about Winston Churchill this week, but I know I'm going to have plenty opportunities to talk about Winston Churchill, because there are a lot of great quotes out there about Winston Churchill. But basically, I will say that he was the individual, the leader of Britain during World War II, when Hitler was on his mad rampage to take over Europe. He was the very inspirational leader during that time to help defeat Hitler and the Third Reich, and to help win World War II. So, but, the next time I do quote Churchill, we're going to talk some about that, because there is an aspect of Churchill's story that I think probably the casual observer wouldn't think about when they think of Churchill. They're probably just going to think about the good parts of how he was the inspirational leader for all of Europe during World War II. That's going to do it for this week's episode. And again, I really do encourage you, if you can, think about contributing. Texting Harvey to the number 90999 to give through your phone bill. $10. I mean, $10 in itself doesn't seem like a lot, but when you combine it with all of the other individuals that are giving, it goes a very long way. So please consider giving. If you don't want to give through the American Red Cross, give to the J.J. Watt Foundation or J.J. Watt crowdfunding effort. And I gave you that website earlier. Well, my friend is about to take us out here, so thank you for joining us this week.
This episode may have ended, but remember, inspiration and motivation are just like delicate flowers. They must be